use to purchase the stock and deposit the money in the bank. I don't, and I can't confirm this yet, but it's interesting to think that you look at some of the things Obama did immediately coming into office. And by the way, President Obama, he got no picnic. What he inherited from Bush and Cheney, I don't know to what extent they had a finger or hand in this mess, but, you know, God bless me, he's doing his best. It's a mess. But he did a lot of things when he came into office, and one of the things he did was he immediately, and these are, as an accountant, my background's accounting, I think you can beat, I know you can beat this quest or what you're after, but if you didn't try to understand why things are happening to you, that's fine. But, you know, if you can piece together the facts and piece together the evidence, because the evidence is not clear. There's no case law. There's some, but it's all criminal. But the thing that the Obama team did was they immediately said that the FDIC their deposits up to $250,000. Well, what kind of got to do with a struggling home buyer? Well, we're going to shoot deposits down from 100 to 250. And I thought, oh my God, these investors that were buying the stock in what used to be a loan were having their money deposited in banks that were only insured up to 100,000. Now we could be talking about a $250 million into one depository, and I'm thinking, no way, it could be. The second thing in the second stage of events, Obama also said that he is now going to bring back NOL. Not important to understand the mechanics of NOL, but that's net operating loss offset. You can basically take your losses and lick your wounds and go off. And Obama says, I'll let you use these losses this year. I'll let you use them next year, and the next year if you're making money. I thought, what a weird thing to do. He's bringing back the NOL. I mean, I experienced it firsthand. It's wonderful, but tax credit, refunds. So, you know, what happened there is I think a lot of depositors said, look, these loans stink, and we paid for them, and we bought stock, and they weren't up to quality, and I think the president said, well, I'm sorry, but, you know, I'm going to have to say goodnight. Then he gave them a tax credit, which expires, I think, this year. So, and I'm not going to also, we can talk later, I'll give you my information, and you're more welcome to email me. There's something called Class B stock, and there's Class A stock. Here's something I think I might want to ask you, Joe, just to consider, if anything, and especially on your drive home, and just think of this, if you go and buy a car, okay, if you buy a car, and you finance it for $25,000, you bring home a brand new car, and that car is an asset, and the book value of the car, forget the depreciation, the book value still is what you pay. But you owe $25,000 on it, so at the end of the day, you got a beautiful car in your driveway, but you have no equity. There's no net gain there. So the next day, you go to your family and friends and say, look at these stock certificates I printed up. And they say, oh, that's great. You say, yeah, I'm going to start a business. And they say, okay. And you say, what I want from you is each amount of money, and I'll give you the certificates, and you raise $25,000 from them. And they're happy. They know they have faith in you. So you take the $25,000 after giving them stock in your new company. You take the $25,000, you go to the bank, and you say, here, bank, I'm paying you off. The bank says, you're paying us off. You just got the car yesterday. You say, that's right, but I'm paying you off. So you pay off the bank. The bank says, thank you. And now you take the pink slip, okay, and you let everybody know that your new company is going to be backed by the $25,000 they put in the company, and it's going to have other assets such as the pink slip to your car. Okay? The pink slip went from the bank, and by the way, pink slip is the title, right? The pink slip went from the bank to you, now to your possession, but the stockholders get to know that at least there's a pink slip somewhere around there. And that's what they're doing in this process, okay? They're stripping the lender of the obligation. In this instance, the the person with the car, strips the lien, he strips the bank loan away from the loan of the car, and he gets the pink slip. Once he has the pink slip, that's what he issued the stock for. He didn't have the stock. He didn't have the pink slip when he issued the stock, but he knew that, do it in a few days and no harm, no foul. You can't do that in an SEC registration. My God, you can't do that. But anyway, that's kind of what you have happening here. And FAS 140 is where I'm going to end. It states as an accounting rule that you cannot exert any controlling interest over anything that you sell. And if you do sell a car and you sell it to somebody and you have a handshake and the person drives away, you better never see him again, and you better never be seen driving the car again. The only way, especially if you took a loss, you see, everything's done in our society, everything is done in the United States based on reporting. So you can't. What the lenders are doing is they're making things up, and they're creating what they call ad hoc solutions. And you probably know a couple of situations where something is not exactly the way it was printed in the civil code, your state civil code. But they're ad-libbing, and they're doing what works at the moment. And when they do that, you have a domino. You're going to trigger the dominoes because you have all kinds of other issues, which tells me that they are not going to be able to preempt the way they want to. They're not going to be able to, necessarily overcome the good arguments. And you can't overcome this problem if you properly present your case. I'm going to take a second here. George, you still there?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay. Any questions at this point?
If we're planning to file a complaint, should we bring in FAS 140 into our complaint?
One question. If you file civil action, you bring this FS 140 with your action?
Outstanding question. Do you work for the Attorney General's office? I'm not an attorney, and I can't practice law. I know you know that. I'm just going to get that as a disclaimer. Only a licensed practitioner is allowed to practice law. But absolutely, I always remind attorneys as an expert. Yes, sir. I would absolutely include it, and then go to your. What's interesting too is FAS 140 again says you lose all controlling interest of the asset that you sold. Now, according to a couple of very well-renowned deans and professors for major universities, they're saying the way they set these things up, these programs, and under FAS 140, that the only way they can service a loan is by putting a lockbox on front of the door. They cannot so much as even call a borrower up. And here's where we're going to uncover some squirrely stuff, because maybe you're not going to want to, as an attorney, necessarily expand or exploit FAS 140 as much as touch upon it as the cause, perhaps, of view towards causation for why squirrely stuff happens. And that is, they can't service your loan when they sold it to a trust. So if you're calling saying, I'm having problems, I heard about the modification program, they're probably going to tell you, you got to miss 2 payments first. And you say, okay, that makes sense, I like that. And they say, yeah, miss 2 payments, call us back. They can't talk to you, they can't even tell you that if they have. At the end of 2 months, maybe 90 days, because then they'll go away for a couple of months, then what they can do is sell the asset to a debt collector. They can claim to have pulled it out of trust. I don't think they can. That's where the debt collector comes in. And once the debt collector comes in, it's over. He has no interest in a modification. Right now, I think your state's operating at about 6 to 8% modifications. There's a reason for that. Okay, why? And I can't believe the legislators and the senators and even the Office of the Comptroller says, I don't understand why we're not getting more modifications. Did we not say the loan was sold? If you sell the loan, it's gone forever. What are you going to modify? Really? Now, if any bank is making loans and then sells the loans, well, they're still collecting the payments, I guess. And those payments do need to get forwarded to the investors. And if the payments don't come anymore, well, then I guess the investors lose their money and everyone with a home in that trust walks away. But that's not the way it's turning out, is it? You have the lender and their servicing arm now, after 60 to 90 days, getting back involved with you, saying, listen, we're going to take your home and this and that, and send us the paperwork. We'll give you a modification. Well, I did 6 times. Well, send it again. You don't want to. You want to just look a little bit closer at who you're giving a modification, requesting a modification from. Okay, and FAS 140 is that's where we would find a whole slew of causes of action potentially. I can't see anything, I'm a little bit late in getting our video going here, but is there a show of hands? Have you taken account of who actually is in default, not default, but delinquent 60 days or more?
Yeah, there's quite a few people here that behind.
Okay, and how many are headed towards the sale date? Coming up.
I have at least five people here.
Okay. Was anybody promised a modification and it did not come to fruition?
Promised verbally or in writing?
At any time we offered a modification, and whether they lost the package, whatever it is, was anyone promised a modification that never came to fruition?
Yes, lots of hands up.
Okay. Was anybody told, well, we can't help you if you miss 2 payments?
Yeah.
Did they tell you in order to get a modification you have to be behind at least 2 months?
Yeah. They can't talk to you until you're down 2 payments.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Now, to the person who asked the question, there's another potential cause of action. You don't own the asset. You have no right to do anything with that borrower other than collect a payment. And you're telling them to miss 2 payments. Do you know that studies show that 87% of all borrowers will never come back on the 3rd missed payment? So that puts you at a real nice advantage, Mr. Leonard, didn't it? And then on top of that, if the borrower did have a potential to bring it back and get it current, you don't hold off. You're going to get the modification process. And then has anybody had them lose the file?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, look, the FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. That's who insures the corporation, quasi-government agency that insures these deposits. It's amazing we haven't talked hardly at all about loans, but they insure these deposits, and they regulate the bank. If you have any nonsense going on, then the bank's going to have to eat it, and that's what they do. But their authority was really removed from them, I think, in the late 90s, and they now act as a servant, if you will, for the Department of the Treasury. But what I'm going to say on record that politically I've got to be careful how I say this, but I'm just going to tell you that it is, in my opinion, that what you're seeing here are banks that are long gone, and there are no banksters, and there's no big greed and bank greed. I mean, these are subrogation claims that are being brought by the Department of the Treasury, and the Guido or the henchman is the receiver of the FDIC. And I do believe the FDIC has a heart. I do. I've spoken to them over 5 hours now, and I've spoken to their Washington bureau. And I've at times been so frustrated I tried to hang up, but they kept me on the phone to try to find a happy medium without completely incriminating themselves. But in a subrogation claim, you are as at a red light, and somebody hits you, and they take off, and you want to get reimbursed for the medical, the car, and everything else, and the insurance says, don't worry, we'll take care of it. When the insurance steps in and takes care of it, then you don't worry, and they'll take care of this guy when they find him. If they do find him, they'll get as much as they can to cover themselves. Well, that is what subrogation is. So if these loans are toxic, if the loans are bum loans, and borrowers can't afford them, then